Why would people fail Amazon interviews in 2024? And let me just start by saying that during a screening round, you could be the best candidate in the world. You could be the subject matter expert in whatever you do. But if you're not what they're actually looking for, it's as simple as that. It's basically a gamble, so you shouldn't read too much between the lines of a screening round. However, I believe it gets far more interesting for the purpose of a final interview round with Amazon. And the first thing I like to talk about here is that the pandemic mainstreamed remote work. And as someone working remotely for the past 20 years, I know this is not always a privilege, right? Especially when it comes to interpersonal skills. I'm not someone who could perform well in an office setting. Right, I'm also a small business owner. I've done this all my life, so you could argue there are many reasons for that. But my point here is that I've noticed a trend with candidates who have been successful as of recently. Some of them even told me, Dan, I cannot wait to get back in office. Right, so this could be interpersonal skills, but the reason why I'm saying this to you is because people who work remotely tend to not have as good interpersonal skills as people who thrive in an office setting. So maybe this is something you would want to consider while prepping your job interview. How do you manage working with other colleagues? How do you add values in a team? How do you handle conflicts and these sort of scenarios? Okay. Second thing I like to talk about here is a classic one, the backbone test. And as the name implies, you have to show a little bit of backbone in a job interview, especially with Amazon, and not to basically be the type of yes to everything they say and to be too agreeable with them in a job interview. I have other videos where I gave specific examples of backbone test, but even though it's an old interviewing technique, it's particularly efficient at Amazon, and I can tell you, you can prepare their job interview for 1 month straight. You can prepare a great story bank with all possible answers, and it's enough to have a failed backbone test to fail that job interview with them. It still happens, and it happens quite often, right? And there's also the deep dive test, where they deep prove your expertise. I believe that's a more classic scenario that's easier to understand, and that's always been for any company, right? But the backbone test is specific to Amazon. And number 3 I want to talk about here, and I know this won't get me many new fans, is not having prepped their Amazon interview well enough. And maybe let me put it from a slightly different perspective here. In my opinion, as seeing people prepare Amazon and job interviews over time, in my opinion, it's dumb to half prep a job interview. So either you don't prep it at all and go, there with an element of surprise, you have nothing to lose, you show some enthusiasm and, bluff it if you want. But this does happen, and some people do pass these interviews. Very few people pass these interviews, and I only know of such people when I work with them to transition to another company, when they tell me how they got in. But it is an option, whereas if you want to go all in, you should know that, hey, the bar is continuously raising for these Amazon interviews. Like last guy I helped was a systems and DevOps engineer, and he took 11 coaching sessions with me, right? Yeah, he had a full-time job, he was busy, so I could add value to his prep journey, but the bar is continuously raising there. So you have to make a decision. Either you prep it for real, either you know how to set your expectations, right? And the last thing I want to talk about here, why would you fail an Amazon job interview, would be you get stuck. It's as simple as that. Even though all possible interview questions are online and you could easily find them, there is always going to be someone either reframing, either coming up with some different interview questions. And my point is, unless you build listening skills, you understand why the question gets asked in the first place, you are very much susceptible of receiving a question which you cannot answer. Now, if it's a technical question you cannot answer, that's pretty clear. You lack some sufficient expertise and you should move on and stuff like that. But for a behavioral question, it's because you don't have listening skills that you cannot answer these types of questions. So people still do get stuck in Amazon interviews, and if you get back on track, you might also not fail the interview, but from experience, people who get stuck remain stuck for the remainder, not just that interview, but also subsequent ones. So that's what you want to pay particular attention to and build listening skills. And last but not least, you probably notice I haven't even mentioned the use of AI to prepare Amazon interviews, simply because it's so rudimentary and so inefficient that it's not even worth talking about. So I hope you found this information useful, and thank you very much for watching.